My dear friend, there is a truth about life that almost nobody wants to hear. Not because it is complicated, but because it is uncomfortable. Every human being spends a large part of life searching for someone they can call completely mine. We look for that one person who will understand us without explanation, stand with us without conditions, and never walk away. As children, we think our parents will always protect us. As young people, we believe our friends will never leave. Later, we imagine a husband or wife will complete us. Then we place our hopes on our children. But slowly, quietly, life begins to teach us something entirely different. No human being belongs to another human being. People walk with you. They love you, they support you, sometimes they sacrifice for you, but they are travelers on their own journey. The problem begins the moment you mistake companionship for ownership. The moment you think, this person will always understand me. Suffering quietly enters your life. Do not misunderstand me. Love is beautiful. Friendship is beautiful. Family is beautiful. But attachment mixed with expectation becomes a prison. The deeper your expectation, the greater your disappointment. Look carefully at nature. A bird teaches its babies to fly. The day they can fly, they leave the nest. Does the mother bird cry? No. Because nature understands something that humans keep forgetting. Life is movement. Nothing stays. Nothing belongs. Everything flows. Human beings, however, want permanence in an impermanent world. That is why we suffer. There is an old story. A traveler was crossing a desert carrying a bag full of stones. Halfway through the journey, he became exhausted. He cursed the bag. It is too heavy. An old man passing by smiled and asked, "What is inside?" The traveler opened it. Nothing but ordinary rocks. The old man laughed gently. "Nobody forced you to carry them." The traveler replied, "But I have been carrying them for years." The old man said, "Exactly. That is why you forgot they were optional." Many of us are carrying invisible stones, old expectations, old disappointments, old betrayals, old promises. We carry them for so long that they begin to feel like our identity. And then we wonder why life feels heavy. Life is not heavy. Your luggage is. Most people believe suffering comes because the world is cruel. No. Much of suffering comes because we reveal too much, expect too much, and depend too much. There is an ancient saying, the tree with the deepest roots makes the least noise. Have you ever seen a mango tree announcing, "This year I will produce 500 fruits"? No. It simply grows. Its roots go deeper every day. It absorbs sunlight. It absorbs rain. It remains silent. Then one season, fruit appears naturally. People gather around the fruit, not because the tree advertised itself, but because reality speaks louder than promises. Human beings do exactly the opposite. The moment an idea enters the mind, we begin announcing it. The moment a dream is born, we want applause. The moment we start something, we want recognition. And slowly, our energy leaves action and enters conversation. Talking creates the illusion of progress. Silence creates actual progress. There is another little story. A young monk once went to his teacher and proudly declared, "Master, I have decided that from tomorrow, my life will completely change." The teacher smiled. The next morning, the young monk came back looking disappointed. "What happened?" asked the master. "I failed. What changed?" "I spent the whole evening telling everyone how my life was going to change." The master laughed. "You spent your energy describing the journey instead of walking it. This is how the human mind works. The ego enjoys announcements. Wisdom enjoys action. Whenever your mouth moves too much, your life moves too little. This is why truly powerful people often appear ordinary. They don't need to convince anyone. Reality will eventually introduce them. Remember this carefully. Not everyone who smiles at you celebrates your success. Not everyone who encourages you wishes you well. And not everyone who criticizes you is your enemy. Human beings are complicated. Inside every person lives love and fear, generosity and jealousy, compassion and competition. Which one appears depends on the situation. So, instead of trying to judge others, become wise enough to guard your own inner world. Your mind is like a sacred temple. Would you leave the doors of a temple open for everyone to walk in? No. Then why do you leave your thoughts, your dreams, your fears, and your deepest secrets open for every passing opinion? Learn to close the door, not out of fear, out of intelligence. Silence is not hiding. Silence is protection. Silence is preparation. Silence is maturity. The world celebrates those who speak loudly. Life rewards those who work quietly. Over the next few parts, we will explore 7 things that should remain protected, not because people are evil, but because your inner life is precious. When you learn what to reveal and what to preserve, when you understand where openness ends and wisdom begins, a strange thing happens. Life becomes lighter, relationships become healthier, and your mind finally begins to experience something it has searched for all along: freedom. So stay with me, because the first secret may completely change the way you think about your own dreams. My dear friend, there is something incredibly delicate about a dream. Before it becomes reality, it is almost invisible. It exists only as a tiny spark within you. No one else can see it the way you see it. No one else can feel the fire that gave birth to it. And that is exactly why you must protect it. Most people make the same mistake. The moment a beautiful idea enters their mind, they rush to share it. They call a friend. They tell their family. They post it online. They begin speaking about the future as if speaking itself were an achievement. It feels exciting. It feels motivating. But something subtle begins to happen. Every opinion you receive becomes another voice inside your head. One person says, "That's impossible." Another says, "Someone already tried that." A third person laughs. A fourth person pretends to encourage you, but you can sense doubt hiding behind the smile. None of these people are necessarily bad. They are simply looking at your dream through the limits of their own experience. If they have never climbed a mountain, every mountain looks impossible. If they have never built a business, every business sounds risky. If they have never transformed themselves, your transformation feels unrealistic. Why should you allow someone else's limitations to become your future? There is an old story about Mullah Nasruddin. One morning, Mullah announced to the entire village, "My friends, I have decided to become the greatest horse trainer in the kingdom." The villagers clapped. Some laughed, some congratulated him. Some advised him. One man suggested different techniques. Another recommended expensive equipment. A third warned him that horse training was dangerous. By evening, Mullah had received more advice than experience. The next morning, he looked exhausted. His wife asked, "What happened? I thought today was the first day of your new career." Mullah sighed. "I spent all night worrying about everyone's opinions." His wife smiled. "And how many horses have you trained?" Mullah scratched his beard. "None." "You see the humor, but look closely. This is not just Mullah. This is almost every one of us. We become experts at discussing our dreams. We become beginners at living them. The ego enjoys being seen as someone with great plans, but existence responds only to action. There is another misunderstanding. People think that talking about their goals increases motivation. Sometimes it feels that way, because when people praise your dream, your brain experiences a small emotional reward. You feel successful without having done anything. The applause arrives before the effort. The satisfaction arrives before the result. And slowly, the urgency to actually work begins to disappear. Your mind mistakes conversation for progress. That is a dangerous illusion. Reality has a very different language. Reality respects discipline. Reality respects consistency. Reality rewards those who continue working long after the excitement has faded. Look at a seed buried in the earth. Does it announce, "One day I will become a mighty tree"? No, it remains hidden in darkness, quietly growing roots, quietly gathering strength. Only when its foundation is ready does it emerge into the light. Nature never hurries. Nature never advertises. Nature simply grows. Human beings would learn a great deal by watching a tree. There is a beautiful Zen story. A young disciple visited his master with shining eyes. "Master, I have decided to meditate every day for 5 hours. Soon I will become enlightened." The master poured tea into a cup until it overflowed. The disciple quickly said, "Master, the cup is already full." The master smiled. "So is your mouth." The disciple looked confused. The master continued, "You are speaking about tomorrow instead of sitting today." What a profound lesson. Your future does not care about your declarations. It responds only to today's actions. Many people ask, "But shouldn't I share my dreams with people who love me?" Share them only with those who have earned the right to hear them. Not everyone who loves you has the capacity to protect your vision. Sometimes they discourage you because they are afraid for you. Sometimes they discourage you because they are afraid of you. Sometimes they simply cannot imagine what you can become. Protecting your dream is not secrecy born from fear. It is silence born from wisdom. A sculptor does not invite the whole town to watch every strike of the hammer. The world comes only after the masterpiece is complete. Likewise, your life deserves the dignity of quiet preparation. Work when nobody is watching. Learn when nobody is applauding. Improve when nobody is noticing. Then one day, people will ask, "How did this happen so suddenly?" They will call you an overnight success. Only you will know about the years of invisible effort. Remember this. Noise attracts attention. Silence attracts power. Do not become addicted to talking about the mountain. Climb it. Do not convince people you are changing. Change. Do not promise greatness. Practice greatness in ordinary moments. Because the loudest announcement of your dream should never come from your words. It should come from your life. In the next part, we will explore an even deeper secret. Why revealing your weaknesses carelessly can quietly place your life in the hands of others, and how true inner strength is born not from pretending to be perfect, but from knowing what to protect. My dear friend, every human being has a place inside that is tender. No matter how successful someone appears, no matter how confident they sound, somewhere within them lives a fear, an insecurity, a wound that is not completely healed. There is nothing wrong with having weaknesses. The mistake is believing that everyone deserves to know them. Today's world glorifies the idea of telling everyone everything. People think complete openness is always wisdom. It is not. There is a difference between honesty and carelessness. Wisdom knows the difference. Imagine you own a beautiful house. Would you leave every door unlocked simply because you believe people should trust in another? Trust is beautiful, but trust without awareness becomes innocence, and innocence in the wrong place becomes suffering. The same is true of your inner life. Not every visitor should be given the keys. Not every listener deserves your deepest story. There is an old story about Mullah Nasruddin. One evening, Mullah was sitting in a tea shop looking unusually sad. A friend sat beside him and asked, "Mullah, why do you look so miserable?" Mullah sighed deeply. "My friend, I have one terrible weakness. Whenever someone praises me, I immediately trust them." The friend smiled warmly. "Mullah, you are one of the wisest men I have ever met." Mullah's eyes sparkled. Really? Of course, the friend replied. In fact, could you lend me some money? Only for a week? Mullah happily emptied his pockets. A month passed, then another. The friend disappeared. When someone asked Mullah what happened, he shook his head and laughed. I didn't lose my money. I paid tuition to the University of Foolishness. Everyone laughed. But how many of us keep paying the same tuition? Not with money alone, with our emotions, with our secrets, with our trust. One kind word, one compliment, one moment of loneliness, and suddenly we reveal everything. Remember this carefully. A person can genuinely care about you today. Life changes, circumstances change, relationships change. People who once hugged each other sometimes stop speaking. People who promised forever sometimes become strangers. This is not a reason to become suspicious. It is a reason to become conscious. Do not build your life on emotional excitement. Build it on understanding. There is another story from a Zen monastery. A young monk approached the master. Master, whenever I meet someone kind, I immediately tell them everything about myself. The master handed him a precious clay pot. Carry this across the garden. The monk did so carefully. When he returned, the master asked, Why were you walking so slowly? The monk answered, Because the pot is fragile. The master nodded, and your heart is even more fragile. If you protect a clay pot with such care, why do you hand your heart to every smiling face? The monk understood. Strength is not about building higher walls. It is about building wiser doors. Some people believe hiding weakness means pretending to be strong. That is not wisdom either. Pretending creates another prison. The truly strong person knows their weaknesses completely. They simply refuse to make them public entertainment. Work on your fears quietly. Heal your wounds patiently. Let your transformation happen in silence. Not every battle deserves an audience. Look at nature again. When a tree is injured, it does not announce its pain to the forest. Quietly, season after season, it heals itself. The scar remains, but the tree continues growing. That is resilience. Human beings often do the opposite. We keep touching old wounds. We keep introducing ourselves through yesterday's pain. My childhood was difficult. I was betrayed. I was rejected. I was misunderstood. Perhaps all of this is true. But if you keep repeating the story, eventually the story begins living you. Healing begins the day you stop building your identity around your wounds. Your past explains you. It should not imprison you. There is another subtle danger. When people know exactly where you are emotionally weak, some may consciously or unconsciously begin controlling you. If they know you fear rejection, they can reject you to control you. If they know you desperately seek approval, they can withhold appreciation to manipulate you. If they know loneliness frightens you, they can threaten to leave whenever they want power. You may never notice it happening, but slowly, your emotional freedom disappears. This is why inner maturity is so precious. It gives you something nobody can steal: self-respect. When you respect yourself deeply, you stop begging the world to constantly reassure you. You still love, you still trust, you still care, but your peace no longer depends on someone else's opinion. One of the greatest freedoms in life is this: to know your own heart better than anyone else. Then no compliment can intoxicate you. No criticism can destroy you. No rejection can define you. Because your center is no longer outside you. It is within. Remember this: silence is not weakness. Silence is protection. Healing does not need an audience. Growth does not require announcements. Your deepest struggles should become your greatest teachers, not public conversations. Walk quietly, heal patiently, grow steadily, and one day, people will notice your strength without ever knowing the battles you fought to build it. In the next part, we will explore another powerful truth: while revealing your wealth, Income or financial plans often invites comparison and capacity in unnecessary suffering. And why the wisest people have always kept their relationship with money deeply private. My dear friend, money is one of the strangest inventions of humanity. It is only paper, only numbers on a screen. Yet because of it, friendships have ended, families have been divided, brothers have become strangers, and lifelong trust has disappeared. Money itself is not dangerous. It is the unconsciousness surrounding money that creates suffering. Many people proudly announce their income. They speak about their investments. They tell everyone how much they earn, how much land they own, how much gold they have purchased, or how successful their business has become. They believe they are simply sharing good news, but they forget something very important. The moment money enters a conversation, comparison quietly follows. Comparison is a silent poison. No one may say anything to your face. They may congratulate you. They may smile. They may even celebrate with you. But deep inside, another voice may begin whispering, "Why does he have more than I do? Why not me?" Jealousy rarely announces itself. It hides behind polite words and pleasant smiles. That is why wisdom has always advised, let your prosperity speak through your way of living, not through your words. There is an old story about Mullah Nasruddin. One afternoon, Mullah walked into the marketplace wearing a brand new silk robe. He smiled proudly and announced, "My friends, business is excellent. I have never been richer." Everyone applauded. A shopkeeper offered him free tea. Another praised his intelligence. Mullah returned home feeling important. The following week, something strange began happening. One neighbor came asking for a loan. Another requested financial help. A distant relative suddenly remembered they were family. Even people Mullah barely knew began visiting his house with long stories and empty pockets. After several months, Mullah sat outside looking exhausted. His wife asked, "White, what happened to the rich businessman?" Mullah sighed. "I thought I had earned money." "What did you earn?" she asked. "I earned responsibilities I never asked for." She laughed and said, "Next time, let your bank account stay rich while your mouth stays poor." Sometimes the funniest stories contain the deepest truths. The more people know about your wealth, the more they unknowingly build expectations around you. If you help once, they expect help forever. If one day you say no, they forget every kindness you ever showed. Human memory is curious. It remembers the one refusal more than 100 acts of generosity. That is why generosity should be quiet. Give because your heart overflows, not because people know you can. There is another Zen story. A wealthy merchant visited an old monk. He proudly displayed expensive clothes, precious rings, and rare jewels. After listening quietly, the monk picked up a clay cup filled with water. He asked, "What do you see?" The merchant replied, "Water." The monk dropped a single piece of gold into the cup. "What do you see now?" "The gold." The monk smiled gently. "The water has not disappeared. Your attention has. Money is useful, but the moment it becomes your identity, people stop seeing you. They begin seeing only your gold." What a profound insight. Never allow money to become your introduction. Let your character introduce you. Your kindness, your wisdom, your presence. These are treasures that cannot be stolen. Money can disappear overnight. Character remains. Another mistake people make is revealing future financial plans. They announce, "I am buying land next month. I have invested in this company. I am planning a new business." Why? For what purpose? To receive approval? To impress others? Life does not require an audience. A seed buried beneath the soil never asks the forest for permission before it grows. It simply grows. The world notices only after the tree begins giving fruit. That is intelligence. Silence is not secrecy born from fear. Silence is the space where dreams mature. It protects your energy from unnecessary opinions. Think carefully. If your income is small, some people may underestimate you. If your income is large, others may become jealous. If your income changes, expectations change with it. So why build your identity around something so temporary? Real abundance is not measured by what you possess. It is measured by how little your peace depends upon possessions. There are people with millions who cannot sleep peacefully. There are people with very little who laugh with their whole heart. Who is truly rich? The one with the bigger house or the one with the lighter mind? Wealth is a wonderful servant. It becomes a terrible master. Use money, enjoy money, create with money, help others through money, but never allow money to become the language through which the world knows you. Live simply, work sincerely, share wisely, give quietly. And let your financial life remain between you, your responsibilities, and your own conscience. Remember this: a full tree bends, an empty tree stands stiff. The truly prosperous person rarely feels the need to prove prosperity. Their peace speaks louder than their possessions. In the next part, we will explore another subtle but life-changing truth: why speaking too early about your future plans can quietly drain your energy, attract unnecessary interference, and delay the very future you are trying to create. My dear friend, there is a strange habit that almost every human being has. The moment we decide to change our life, the moment a new possibility appears, the moment a beautiful vision is born, we feel an irresistible urge to tell somebody. It feels natural. It feels exciting. You want your family to know. You want your friends to appreciate you. You want people to say, "That's amazing. You can do it." But listen carefully. A future is like a seed. A seed belongs beneath the soil, not in the marketplace. The moment you pull it out to show everyone, you interrupt its natural growth. Every great creation in existence begins in silence. A child grows in the darkness of the room. A pearl forms silently inside an oyster. A diamond is created under immense pressure, hidden deep beneath the earth. Nature hides what is becoming powerful. Only human beings feel the need to announce every beginning, and then they wonder why so many beginnings never become endings. There is an old story about Mullah Nasruddin. One morning, Mullah climbed onto a wooden box in the middle of the village square. He cleared his throat proudly and shouted, "My dear friends, listen carefully. Within 6 months, I am going to build the biggest bakery in the entire province. People will travel from distant cities just to taste my bread." The villagers applauded. Some admired his confidence. Some laughed quietly. Others immediately began offering advice. One man said, "You should open near the market." Another argued, "No, near the river." Someone else warned, "The price of flour is rising." Another whispered, "I heard another baker is planning the same thing." By sunset, Mullah's mind was overflowing with opinions. That night he could not sleep. He kept replaying everyone's words. Weeks passed, months passed. One afternoon his wife asked, "Mullah, when are you starting the bakery?" Mullah scratched his beard. "I've been too busy thinking." His wife smiled. "You were busy talking before you had anything to think about." Everyone laughed. "What's off to you, Dad?" Most dreams do not die because they are impossible. They die because they become crowded with other people's fears. Understand something important. Not everyone who advises you has locked your path. People give advice from the prison of their own experiences. A person who has failed in business may tell you business is dangerous. Someone disappointed in love might tell you never to trust. Someone who abandoned their dreams may quietly encourage you to abandon yours as well. They are not always trying to harm you. They are simply describing their own life. Do not mistake someone else's map for your destination. There is a beautiful Zen story. A young monk approached his master with great excitement. "Master," he said, "I have made a decision. For the next year, I will observe complete silence and dedicate every waking hour to meditation." The master looked at him and smiled, and he asked, "Who have you told?" The young monk proudly replied, "My parents, my friends, the villagers, the other monks, almost everyone." The master burst into gentle laughter. The disciple looked confused. "Master, why are you laughing?" The old monk said, "My son, your silence ended the moment you announced it." The disciple lowered his head. The master continued, "Real transformation does not advertise itself. The fragrance of a flower travels farther than the flower's voice ever could." How profound. The strongest actions rarely make the loudest sounds. Have you ever noticed the sunrise? It never makes an announcement. There are no drums, no speeches, no applause. Yet every morning, it transforms the entire world. That is the power of silent action. Human beings often seek witnesses before they seek wisdom. We want people to notice our intentions. Life is not interested in intentions. Life responds to commitment. A river never tells the ocean, "One day I will reach you." It simply keeps flowing. Some days slowly, some days fiercely, some days around obstacles. But it never stops to make announcements. Eventually, without any publicity, it reaches the ocean. Become like the river, flow. Do not explain every step. Do not defend every decision. Do not seek permission to become who you are capable of becoming. There is another hidden danger. The more people know about your future plans, the more opportunities exist for distraction. Some may discourage you. Some may unintentionally fill you with doubt. Some may copy your idea. Others may constantly ask, "How is it going?" Their question seems innocent, but each time you answer, your mind leaves the work and enters performance. Soon you begin working for approval instead of purpose. That is the beginning of inner exhaustion. Protect your future, not because the world is evil, but because every growing thing deserves shelter until it becomes strong enough to stand on its own. Remember, the eagle builds its nest high above the noise. The bamboo spends years growing invisible roots before it rises toward the sky. Nature never rushes. Nature never boasts. Nature simply becomes. If you truly wish to create something extraordinary, speak less, observe more, plan carefully, work consistently, allow your results to introduce you. Because when your work finally blooms, you will not need to convince anyone. Reality is the greatest announcement. In the next part, we will explore another life-changing secret: why exposing your family conflicts and private relationships to the outside world slowly weakens the very foundation of your home, and how silence can sometimes become the highest form of love. My dear friend, there is one place in this world that should feel like a sanctuary. Not perfect, not free of disagreements, but protected. That place is your home. Every family has misunderstandings. Every marriage has moments of silence. Every parent and child experience conflict. Every brother and sister disappoint each other at times. This is not failure. This is simply life. The problem begins when private storms become public entertainment. Today, the world has made sharing everything seem normal. People post emotional messages on social media. They complain about their spouse to friends. They discuss family arguments with colleagues. They call relatives immediately after every disagreement. It feels like relief, but most of the time, it hides a wound much deeper than the original argument. Let me tell you a story about Mullah Nasruddin. One evening, Mullah and his wife had a loud argument. Nothing unusual. By morning, they had both calmed down. As Mullah walked to the marketplace, his closest friend noticed his tired face. "My dear Mullah," the friend asked, "what happened?" Mullah sighed dramatically. "You won't believe it. My wife said this." Then I replied, And she reminded me of something from 10 years ago. Then I said something even more foolish. For nearly an hour, Mullah described every detail. His friend nodded sympathetically. I understand. Mullah felt lighter. He thought the matter was finished. The next day, something strange happened. The butcher looked at him with pity. The tea seller smiled strangely. Children whispered as he walked past. By evening, half the village knew the story. When Mullah returned home, his wife was waiting at the door. So, she asked calmly, has the whole village enjoyed our family meeting? Mullah froze. I only told one person. His wife smiled gently. And he only told one person. And that person told only one person. Truth travels on foot. Gossip rides a horse. Mullah lowered his head. Sometimes laughter hides a painful truth. The people who listen to your complaints often remember them much longer than you do. Tomorrow, you may forgive your husband. Your friend may not. Tomorrow, you may forgive your wife. Your relatives may never forget. Tomorrow, you may rebuild your relationship. The image others form remains broken. This is why wisdom says, do not invite the crowd into your sacred space. There was another story from an old monastery. A disciple approached his master looking troubled. Master, he said, my brother insulted me. I told everyone in the village what he had done. The master quietly picked up a pillow. Without saying a word, he tore it open. Feathers scattered into the wind. Then he looked at the disciple. Now gather every feather. The disciple replied, that is impossible. The master nodded. So are your words. Once released, they no longer belong to you. What a beautiful lesson. Words cannot be recalled. Once spoken, they begin living their own life. Each listener changes them slightly. Each retelling adds something new. Soon, what returns to you is no longer the truth. It has become a story, and stories often destroy what reality could have healed. Understand something deeply. Every relationship has two versions. The version you experience and the version the world imagines. Never feed the second one. If your marriage is struggling, work on it. If your family has conflict, resolve it. If you need guidance, seek someone truly wise and trustworthy. Not someone who enjoys collecting other people's problems as conversation. There is a vast difference between seeking counsel and seeking sympathy. Counsel helps you grow. Sympathy often keeps you trapped in the role of a victim. One leads toward maturity. The other keeps the wound alive. Another danger is even more subtle. Every time you repeatedly complain about someone you love, your own mind begins believing the story more deeply. You stop seeing the whole person. You begin seeing only their mistakes. The relationship becomes heavier, not because the other person changed, but because your perception became narrow. Awareness means remembering that no human being is only their worst moment. Just as you would not want your entire life judged by one mistake, do not reduce someone else to theirs. Protect the dignity of your relationships. Not because they are flawless, but because they are precious. Silence is sometimes the greatest act of love. Forgiveness is sometimes the greatest act of intelligence. And privacy is often the greatest act of respect. Remember, a house is built with bricks. A home is built with trust. Trust is fragile. Once cracked, it takes years to become whole again. Guard it carefully. Speak thoughtfully. Choose your listeners wisely. And whenever possible, heal behind closed doors rather than performing pain before an audience. Because the strongest families are not those without conflict. They are the ones who learn how to transform conflict into understanding without inviting the whole world to watch. In the next part, we will explore another profound secret: why constantly talking about your past mistakes and old wounds can silently chain you to yesterday, and how true freedom begins when you stop introducing yourself through your history and start living from your awareness. My dear friend, one of the greatest tragedies in human life is this. Most people are physically living in the present, but psychologically, they are living 20 years behind. Their body has grown older. Their memories have grown stronger. Every decision they make passes through the filter of something that happened long ago. Someone betrayed them once. Now they trust no one. Someone rejected them once. Now they fear every relationship. Someone laughed at their dream years ago. Now they no longer dare to dream. Can you see what has happened? The past is no longer behind them. It has quietly moved inside them. And whatever lives inside you begins to shape your future. There is nothing wrong with remembering. Memory is a beautiful gift. Without memory, you could not learn. But memory is meant to be a teacher, not a prison. The moment your past becomes your identity, your future begins to disappear. Let me tell you a story about Mullah Nasruddin. One afternoon, Mullah walked into a barber shop. As the barber began cutting his hair, Mullah suddenly said, "Be very careful. Years ago, another barber gave me the worst haircut of my life." The barber smiled politely. "I'll do my best." 5 minutes later, Mullah spoke again. "You know, that barber also talked too much." The barber nodded. A few minutes passed. Then Mullah added, "He even nicked my ear." Finally, the barber put down his scissors and laughed. "Mullah, are you here for today's haircut or yesterday's?" The whole shop burst into laughter. But look carefully. Isn't this exactly what many of us are doing? Someone meets us with kindness today, and we respond with fear from yesterday. Life offers us a new beginning, and we answer with an old wound. The past keeps speaking louder than the present. There is an ancient Zen story. A disciple once asked his master, "Why do I suffer so much?" The master picked up a small stone and placed it into the disciple's hand. "Carry this for 1 minute." The disciple did. "It feels light," he said. Then the master replied, "Carry it for 1 hour." The disciple agreed. "It is becoming uncomfortable." The master continued, "Now imagine carrying it for 20 years. The disciple smiled. "My arm would become useless." The master gently said, "The stone has not become heavier. You simply refuse to put it down. This is the secret. Many of our emotional burdens are not heavy because of what happened. They are heavy because we continue carrying them. Forgiveness is not saying, 'What happened was acceptable.' Forgiveness simply means, 'I refuse to let yesterday steal another day of my life.' Many people misunderstand forgiveness. They think forgiving someone means forgetting. No, wisdom remembers the lesson. Awareness releases the pain. You do not need to erase your memory. You only need to stop drinking from it every day. Another mistake people make is constantly telling others about their old failures. Every conversation begins with, "I used to be poor. I was betrayed. I failed in business. I lost everything." Perhaps these experiences are true. Perhaps they shaped you. But ask yourself honestly, how many times must you repeat the same story before it becomes a cage? Every time you tell the story, your mind walks back into that moment. The body cannot always distinguish between memory and reality. You relive the emotion again and again and again. Slowly, you become known not for your wisdom, but for your wounds. Do not make your scars your introduction. Let them become your silent strength. Look at a river. Have you ever seen a river flowing backward to search for the mountain where it began? Never. The river honors its source, but it keeps moving toward the ocean. That is intelligence. Life is always flowing forward. Only the human mind keeps building houses in places that no longer exist. There is another little story. A traveler came to an old monk carrying a large sack on his back. "I am exhausted," the traveler complained. "I cannot enjoy life anymore." The monk asked, "What is inside your sack?" The traveler opened it. Old clothes, broken tools, worthless objects. The monk smiled. "Why are you carrying these?" The traveler answered, "I've carried them for so many years that I forgot I could leave them behind." The monk quietly said, "The mind works exactly the same way. Some of you are carrying guilt. Some are carrying shame. Some are carrying regret. Some are carrying anger. None of these things belong in your future. Learn from them. Bow to the lesson, then continue walking." Remember, the windshield of a car is much larger than the rearview mirror for a reason. You are meant to spend more time looking ahead than looking behind. If you keep staring into yesterday, you will eventually crash into today. Life is offering you this very moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. This breath, this sunrise, this opportunity, this conversation, this step. Awareness is always available now. And the moment you become fully available to this moment, the chains of the past begin to fall away on their own. My dear friend, there is one treasure in life that is more precious than money, more valuable than success, more beautiful than fame. It is your inner experience. The moment you discover even a little peace within yourself, the moment meditation touches you, the moment you experience a silence that has no reason, something sacred begins to bloom. But this is where many seekers make their biggest mistake. The very next day, they begin telling everyone, "I had an amazing meditation. I saw a divine light. I felt unbelievable energy. I think I'm becoming spiritually awakened." The experience may be genuine, but the moment you begin collecting admiration for it, the experience starts disappearing. Why? Because the ego has entered through the back door. The mind is incredibly clever. If it cannot become important through money, it tries to become important through spirituality. If it cannot say, "Look how rich I am," it starts saying, "Look how spiritual I am." The ego has simply changed clothes. It has not disappeared. Let me tell you a story about Mullah Nasrudi. One morning, Mullah came running into the marketplace, looking unusually excited. People gathered around him. "What happened, Mullah?" he whispered dramatically. "Last night, I had the most extraordinary spiritual experience." Everyone leaned closer. "What did you see?" Mullah looked around mysteriously. "I cannot tell you." The crowd became even more curious. "Why not?" Mullah smiled proudly. "Because it is beyond words." The villagers became even more impressed. For the next hour, Mullah continued explaining how impossible it was to explain. Finally, an old woman laughed and said, "Mullah, if it cannot be explained, why have you been talking about it for an hour?" The entire marketplace burst into laughter. Mullah scratched his beard. "I suppose my silence became too talkative." That is exactly what happens. The ego can even become proud of its humility. It can become proud of its silence. It can become proud of having no pride. It is endlessly creative, so be watchful. There's an old Zen story. A young monk ran excitedly to his master. "Master, while meditating today, I saw brilliant golden light surrounding my whole body." The master calmly asked, "Did you enjoy it?" "Yes," the disciple replied. The master smiled. "Good. Now, tomorrow." "Sit again." The disciple looked confused. "That's all?" The master nodded. "If light comes, watch it. If darkness comes, watch it. If joy comes, watch it. If nothing comes, watch that too." The disciple asked, "But wasn't my experience special?" The master gently replied, "Everything that comes will also go. Do not become attached, even to beautiful experiences." What wisdom! Most people think spirituality is about collecting extraordinary experiences. No. Spirituality is becoming free from the need to collect anything. Experiences come and go. awareness remains. Clouds come and go, the sky remains. Thoughts come and go, consciousness remains. Emotions come and go, the witness remains. Become interested in the witness, not the passing clouds. Another danger appears when people constantly speak about their spiritual journey. Soon they begin comparing themselves. I meditate longer. I know more scriptures. I've attended more retreats. I've experienced higher states. Can truth be measured like this? Can love be compared? Can silence compete? The moment comparison enters, spirituality leaves. A truly wise person rarely feels the need to convince anyone of their depth. Their presence speaks. Have you ever sat beside someone who says very little, yet you leave feeling peaceful? They did not teach you with words. They taught you with their way of being. That is real teaching. The fragrance of a flower never argues with anyone. It simply spreads. Become like that flower. Do not announce your transformation. Allow people to discover it. If your meditation is real, you will become kinder. If your awareness is growing, you will become less reactive. If your understanding is deepening, you will judge less. These are the signs, not visions, not dramatic stories. Life itself becomes softer around you. There is one more thing to understand. Your deepest moments with existence are intimate. Just as lovers protect their most beautiful moments from the crowd, protect your sacred moments with life. Not because they are secret, because they are precious. The more you expose something precious to constant opinion, the more its purity begins to fade. Keep a corner of your heart where only you and existence meet. No audience, no applause, no explanation, just silence. And in that silence, something miraculous begins to happen. You stop searching for recognition. You stop trying to appear extraordinary. You become wonderfully ordinary. And that ordinariness becomes your greatest freedom. Now, my dear friend, we have completed all 7 secrets. You have seen why wisdom protects dreams, protects weaknesses, protects wealth, protects future plans, protects family, protects the past, and finally, protects the sacred space within. But understanding these truths is only the beginning. In the next part, we will go much deeper. Through the timeless wisdom of Mullah Nasruddin, Zen masters, wandering monks, and ordinary people, we will discover that silence is not merely the absence of words. It is the birthplace of intelligence, compassion, and true inner freedom. My dear friend, have you ever noticed something? The most profound things in existence happen in silence. The sun does not make a sound as it rises. The moon does not announce its arrival. A flower never creates noise while blooming. Your heart has been beating since the day you were born, yet you cannot hear it unless you become very still. Existence is silent. Only the human mind is noisy. And because the mind is noisy, we mistake noise for intelligence. We think the one who speaks the most knows the most. But life has taught me something very different. The person who is constantly talking is often trying to convince others. The person who is deeply rooted has nothing to prove. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is overflowing with awareness. Unfortunately, many people are afraid of silence. The moment they are alone, they reach for their phone. If there is no music, they turn on the television. If there is no conversation, they become uncomfortable. Why? Because silence forces you to meet the one person you have been avoiding your entire life, yourself. Most people are not afraid of being alone. They are afraid of meeting their own thoughts. That is why they keep themselves busy. Busyness has become a socially acceptable escape. There is an old story about Mullah Nasruddin. One day, Mullah visited a famous monk who was known for living in complete silence. The monk welcomed him with a smile but spoke no words. 5 minutes passed. Mullah became uncomfortable. 10 minutes passed. He began clearing his throat. 15 minutes passed. Finally, Mullah could not bear it anymore. He stood up and shouted, "Master, why don't you say something?" The monk looked at him peacefully and replied, "I have been saying something for the last 15 minutes. You have only been listening for words." Mullah stood frozen. On the way home, he kept repeating, "Perhaps silence has a language I have never learned." That is a beautiful realization. Silence has its own language. It speaks through presence, through stillness, through awareness. Words communicate information. Silence communicates understanding. Think about someone you truly love. Sometimes you can sit together without saying anything, yet those moments feel complete. No explanation, no entertainment, just presence. That is love. When two people constantly need words to fill the space, it often means they are uncomfortable with silence. Real intimacy grows where silence is welcome. The same is true with life itself. The deeper your relationship with existence becomes, the fewer words you need. There is another story from a Zen monastery. A young disciple asked his master, "What is the highest form of wisdom?" The master pointed toward a nearby lake. The disciple looked. Nothing happened. Minutes passed. Finally, the disciple asked, "Master, what am I supposed to see?" The master quietly picked up a small stone and threw it into the water. Ripples spread across the lake. Then everything became still again. The master asked, "What happened to the water?" The disciple replied, "It returned to its natural state." The master smiled. "So does your mind. If you stop throwing stones into it." How many stones do we throw into our own minds every day? Unnecessary arguments, constant comparison, social media, endless opinions. My dear friends, human beings rarely learn from advice. We learn from experience. And when experience belongs to someone else, we call it a story. That is why the greatest teachers throughout history have not merely given answers, they have told stories. A story slips past the defenses of the mind. Logic argues. Stories awaken. That is why today I want to share a few simple stories. At first, they may make you laugh. Then they may make you uncomfortable. And finally, if you allow them, they may change the way you look at yourself. Because every time you laugh at Mullah Nasruddin, you are secretly laughing at your own unconsciousness. The mirror that never lies. One morning, Mullah walked into a small shop and bought the largest mirror he could find. His wife looked surprised. "Mullah, why do you need such a big mirror?" Mullah smiled proudly. "I want to improve myself." Every morning he stood before the mirror. He adjusted his beard, straightened his clothes, smiled from different angles, practiced looking wise. After several weeks, his wife asked, "So, have you improved?" Mullah answered confidently, "My appearance has." His wife laughed. "I asked about you, not your reflection." That is our life. We spend years polishing our image. Very few spend time polishing their awareness. We worry about how we appear instead of how we are. The world teaches us to build a personality. Wisdom invites us to discover our presence. Personality is what others see. Presence is what you experience within yourself. Never confuse the two. The monk and the empty cup. A young monk had spent many years studying scriptures. He memorized hundreds of teachings. People admired his knowledge. One day he visited an old Zen master. Before the monk could begin speaking, the master started pouring tea. The cup became full. Still he poured. Tea overflowed onto the table. The young monk quickly exclaimed, "Master, the cup is already full." The old master smiled gently. "So are you. You have collected answers, but left no space for understanding. Knowledge fills the memory. Awareness empties the mind. The greatest wisdom often enters only when you admit, 'I do not know.' The ego wants certainty. Life offers mystery." Mullah's donkey. One afternoon, Mullah lost his donkey. The whole village searched for hours. Surprisingly, everyone noticed that Mullah kept smiling. A neighbor became curious. "Mullah, why are you smiling? You've lost your donkey." Mullah replied. I'm smiling because I wasn't riding it when it disappeared. The villagers burst into laughter. But if I had been sitting on the donkey, Mullah continued, I would have been lost too. What a strange answer. Yet look deeper. Most of us focus only on what we have lost. Rarely do we notice what has been protected. One opportunity disappears, but perhaps 10 unseen dangers disappear with it. One relationship ends, perhaps years of future suffering end with it. One door closes, another quietly begins opening. Life is larger than your immediate understanding. Trust the intelligence of existence. The king and the stone. There was once a king who wanted to test the wisdom of his people. He placed a huge stone in the middle of the road. Then he hid behind a tree. Throughout the day, many people complained. Merchants cursed. Soldiers walked around it. Scholars discussed whose responsibility it was. No one moved the stone. Late in the evening, a poor farmer arrived. He quietly pushed the heavy rock aside. Underneath it lay a small bag of gold with a note. It read, "This belongs to the one who removes obstacles instead of complaining about them." Isn't that beautiful? Complaining changes nothing. Awareness always asks, what can I do now? Victims search for someone to blame. Wise people search for the next step. One grows bitterness, the other grows strength. The silent bamboo. A disciple once asked his master, "Why does bamboo grow so tall?" The master replied, "Because for years it grows where nobody can see it. Invisible roots, silent preparation, patient growth. Modern people want visible success without invisible discipline. But existence has never worked that way. Before the tallest bamboo rises toward the sky, its roots disappear deep into the earth. The stronger the foundation, the higher the growth. Do not be afraid if your progress feels invisible. Roots are invisible too, yet they hold up an entire forest." Mullah visits the cemetery. One evening, Mullah walked through an old cemetery. He read the names on the gravestones. Some had lived 40 years, some 60, some 90. Mullah became thoughtful. His friend asked, "What are you thinking?" Mullah smiled quietly. "I noticed something." "What?" "Every grave is different, but every silence is the same." The friend stood speechless. That is perhaps the greatest lesson of all. Death removes every title, every bank account, every argument, every comparison, every victory, every defeat. Only the quality of your consciousness remains meaningful while you are alive. So why waste this precious life trying to impress strangers? Why spend years collecting approval from people who are themselves searching for approval? Live authentically, work sincerely, love deeply, forgive quickly, remain aware. And remember, every story you have heard today points toward only one truth. Wake up. Not tomorrow, not after retirement, not after success, not after everything becomes perfect. Wake up now. Because life is happening now, and only an awake human being truly lives. In the next part, we will explore the timeless wisdom of silence, awareness, and ancient teachings, bringing together everything we have learned into a practical way of living that transforms ordinary days into an extraordinary life. My dear friend, the world has changed beyond recognition. A few decades ago, people waited weeks for a letter. Today, they become impatient if a message takes 2 minutes. We have faster cars, smarter phones, bigger cities, more information than any generation before us. And yet, look carefully. As the human mind become peaceful, technology has evolved. Consciousness has not. We know how to connect with satellites, but many people do not know how to connect with themselves. We have conquered the skies, yet we remain defeated by our own thoughts. This is the greatest irony of modern life. The outer journey has become extraordinary. The inner journey has almost stopped. That is why the wisdom of the ancient masters is still relevant today. Not because it belongs to the past, but because human nature has never changed. Fear is still fear. Greed is still greed. Love is still love. Awareness is still awareness. Only the decorations have changed. Let me tell you a story. Mullah Nasruddin bought the latest and most expensive mobile phone in the village. He proudly showed it to everyone. "It can do everything," he declared. A week later, his friend visited him. "Mullah, how do you like your new phone?" Mullah sighed. "It has made my life very difficult." What happened? "I used to have only one problem. Now, I have notifications for 20 problems." The friend laughed. "Mullah, you bought a phone. You didn't have to buy everyone else's attention." How true that is. Most people are not tired because they work too much. They are tired because their attention is constantly scattered. A peaceful mind is not created by having less to do. It is created by being fully present in whatever you are doing. When you drink tea, just drink tea. When you listen, just listen. When you walk, just walk. The mind says, "What next?" Awareness says, "What is here?" The greatest gift you can give another human being is not your advice. It is your complete attention. When someone feels truly heard, half of their suffering disappears. But how often do we actually listen? Usually, while another person is speaking, we are preparing our reply. We hear words, we miss the person. There is a beautiful story from a Zen monastery. A disciple asked his master, "How can I become wise?" The master handed him a broom. The disciple looked confused. "I asked for wisdom." The master smiled. "Sweep." The disciple swept the courtyard. When he finished, he returned. "Now will you teach me?" The master asked. "What were you thinking while sweeping?" The disciple answered, "I kept thinking about when I would finish." The master nodded. "That is why you learn nothing. The broom was in your hands. Your mind was somewhere else." Then the master picked up the broom himself. Every movement was slow. Every stroke was complete. Nothing hurried, nothing delayed. When he finished, he quietly placed the broom against the wall. The disciple suddenly understood. The lesson had never been about cleaning the courtyard. It had been about cleaning the mind. Life is exactly like that. Every ordinary activity can become meditation if you are fully present. Cooking, driving, working, walking, even washing dishes. Meditation is not something you do for 30 minutes. Meditation is the quality you bring to every moment. There is another story. A wealthy businessman once asked an old sage, "What is the secret of happiness?" The sage handed him a spoon filled with oil. "Walk around the garden without spilling a drop." The businessman concentrated so deeply on the spoon that he noticed nothing else. When he returned, the sage asked, "Did you see the flowers?"
No. The mountains?
"No." "The birds?" "No." The sage smiled. "Now walk again. This time, enjoy a garden." The businessman returned delighted. The roses were beautiful. The fountain was magnificent. The sage asked, "And where is the oil?" The spoon was empty. The businessman looked embarrassed. The sage gently said, "Wisdom is learning to carry your responsibilities without losing your wonder. That is balance." Some people become so serious about success that they forget to live. Others become so distracted by pleasure that they neglect responsibility. A wise person walks between the two, fully alive, fully responsible. My dear friend, do not postpone joy. Do not wait. A child laughs without owning anything. A bird sings without possessing tomorrow. A flower blooms without comparing itself to another flower. Nature never competes. It simply expresses itself. Only human beings are constantly asking, am I ahead? Am I behind? Am I enough? The moment comparison disappears, contentment begins. And contentment is not laziness. Contentment simply means you no longer measure your worth against someone else's life. You continue growing. You continue learning. You continue creating. But not because you feel incomplete. You do it because life is expressing itself through you. Remember this one simple truth. Life is not asking you to become someone else. Life is asking you to become fully yourself. Not the self created by fear. Not the self created by society. But the quiet, aware, joyful presence that has always existed beneath the noise. When that presence begins to guide your life, relationships become simpler. Work becomes meaningful. Silence becomes your friend. Even difficulties become teachers. And slowly, without any announcement, you begin to discover what real freedom feels like. In the final 2 parts of this discourse, we will bring everything together and explore how a life of awareness, silence, responsibility, and inner freedom can transform not just your own life, but also the lives of everyone who comes into your presence. My dear friend, people dream of changing the world. Very few are willing to change themselves. That is why history keeps repeating itself. Every generation promises peace, yet every generation creates new conflict. Every generation speaks about love, yet homes continue to break apart. Every generation invents better machines, yet the human heart remains restless. Why? Because the outer world is only a reflection of the inner world. A confused mind creates a confused society. A fearful heart creates fearful relationships. A greedy individual creates a greedy world. If you truly want to contribute to humanity, begin with the one person you can actually transform, yourself. This is the greatest revolution. And unlike political revolutions, this one requires no weapons, only awareness. There is a beautiful story about Mullah Nasruddin. One morning, Mullah stood outside his house looking angry. His neighbor asked, "What happened?" Mullah replied, "I have decided to change the whole village." The neighbor smiled. "Wonderful. Where will you begin?" Mullah pointed toward his neighbors. "They are the problem." The neighbor laughed. A year later, he met Mullah again. "So, did you change the village?" Mullah sighed. "No. What happened?" "I discovered something very disappointing." "What?" "They all wanted to change me." The neighbor smiled gently. "Exactly. Everyone wants transformation, as long as someone else does it first. This is the human condition. We keep waiting for better governments, better bosses, better partners, better children, better circumstances. Meanwhile, we postpone becoming better ourselves. Life does not begin changing when the world changes. Life begins changing when your perception changes. There is an old Zen story. A disciple asked his master, "Master, how can I bring peace into my family?" The master handed him a dusty mirror. "Clean this." The disciple wiped the dust away. The mirror became clear. The master asked, "What changed?" "The mirror." The master smiled. "No, the mirror was always capable of reflecting clearly. You simply removed what was covering it." Then he looked into the disciple's eyes. The same is true for your consciousness. Peace is not something you manufacture. It is something you uncover beneath your anger. Peace is waiting. Beneath your fear, freedom is waiting. Beneath your constant thinking, silence is waiting. The work is not to create something new. The work is to remove what is unnecessary. Imagine a sculptor standing before a huge block of marble. Someone asks, "How will you create such a beautiful statue?" The sculptor smiles. I will not create it. It is already inside. I only remove everything that is not the statue. What a magnificent way to look at life. You do not have to become awareness. You already are awareness. You simply remove unconscious habits. You remove unnecessary fear. You remove borrowed beliefs. You remove endless comparison. Slowly, your true nature begins to shine. People often ask, what is enlightenment? Perhaps it is much simpler than we imagine. Perhaps enlightenment is nothing more than living each moment without caring yesterday and without fearing tomorrow. Can you eat without checking your phone? Can you listen without interrupting? Can you walk without rushing? Can you sit quietly without feeling lonely? These small moments reveal the quality of your consciousness far more than any philosophy. Mullah Nasruddin once asked a wise old man, "Tell me, what is the fastest path to happiness?" The old man laughed. "The fastest path? Stop running." Mullah looked confused. "That's impossible. Everyone else is running," the old man replied. "And where have they arrived?" Mullah looked around. People were exhausted, busy, anxious, always chasing something beyond the horizon. He smiled quietly. "For the first time, I think I understand." The race itself was the prison. Modern life constantly whispers, more money, more success, more followers, more recognition, more possessions. But awareness quietly asks, what if this moment is already complete? This does not mean you stop growing. It means you stop believing that happiness is waiting somewhere else. A flower does not bloom because another flower is watching. It blooms because blooming is its nature. Likewise, live fully, not to impress anyone, not to defeat anyone, not to prove anything, simply because being fully alive is your nature. One day, your body will grow old. Your possessions will belong to someone else. Your titles will disappear. Even your name may eventually fade from memory. But every moment lived with awareness, every act of kindness, every word spoken with compassion, every silence filled with presence, becomes part of the invisible fragrance you leave behind. That fragrance cannot be measured, yet it touches countless lives. Remember this, you do not change the world by shouting louder than everyone else. You change the world by becoming so peaceful, so clear, so conscious, that everyone who meets you feels inspired to look within themselves. That is real influence. That is real success. That is real spirituality. In the final part of this discourse, we will gather every thread of this journey into one simple truth, a way of living that allows you to walk through this world with courage, wisdom, silence, love, and complete inner freedom, regardless of what life brings your way. My dear friend, we have traveled together through many stories, many questions, and many silences. If you remember nothing else from this discourse, remember this one simple truth. Life becomes beautiful, not when you control the world, but when you learn to master yourself. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change circumstances. Very few discover that changing their own consciousness changes the way they experience every circumstance. The world will continue to change. Some people will praise you, some will criticize you, some will love you, some will misunderstand you, some will stay, some will leave. If your peace depends on all of them behaving the way you want, your peace will never last. But if your peace comes from within, then no storm outside can destroy it. Think about the sky. Clouds come and go. Storms arrive and disappear. Thunder shakes the heavens, rain falls. Then once again, the blue sky remains. Your awareness is like that sky. Thoughts are clouds. Emotions are clouds. Success is a cloud. Failure is another cloud. Do not become the cloud. Become the sky. Throughout this journey, we explored 7 timeless principles. Protect your dreams until they are strong enough to stand on their own. Protect your weaknesses while you transform them into strengths. Protect your wealth from comparison and unnecessary attention. Protect your future plans until action has already begun speaking. Protect the dignity of your family and relationships. Protect yourself from becoming a prisoner of your past. And finally, protect the sacred silence of your inner. These are not rules born from fear. They are expressions of wisdom. Silence is not hiding. Silence is preparation. Silence is maturity. Silence is strength. Let me leave you with one final story about Mullah Nasruddin. One evening, Mullah sat outside his house watching the sunset. A young man approached him and asked, "Mullah, you have made so many mistakes in life. If you had one chance to begin again, what would you do differently?" Mullah smiled. "I would speak less." The young man waited. "That's all?" Mullah nodded. "When I was young, I spoke before I understood. I argued before I listened. I promised before I acted. I judged before I observed. I reacted before I became aware." The young man asked, "And now?" Mullah looked toward the setting sun. "Now I have discovered something." "What is it?" "The quieter I become, the clearer life becomes." The young man sat beside him. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, the young man smiled. "I think this is the first lesson you've given me without words." Mullah laughed softly. "It is also the best one. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson for all of us. Life is not asking you to become extraordinary. Life is asking you to become authentic. Walk with humility. Speak with kindness. Work with sincerity. Love without possession. Give without expectation. Forgive without keeping score. And whenever you are confused, become silence. Not because silence gives instant answers, but because silence allows you to hear the answers that have always been within you. Remember, every sunrise is a new beginning. Every breath is another opportunity. Every moment is inviting you to wake up a little more. Do not postpone living. Do not postpone loving. Do not postpone becoming conscious. The greatest journey is not from one country to another, not from poverty to wealth, not from failure to success. The greatest journey is from unconsciousness to awareness. The day that journey begins, life itself becomes a celebration. So wherever you are today, walk gently, think clearly, speak wisely, smile often, and never forget. The world may remember your achievements for a few years, but it will remember your presence for generations. May your life become a quiet blessing to everyone you meet. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until we meet again, take care of your mind, protect your heart, live consciously, and let your silence speak louder than your words. Thank you, and may your journey be filled with awareness, wisdom, and inner freedom.